The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch, and what I wanted to talk to you about is, ideas that didn't go anywhere but should have. By the way, I understand it's a style and it's a thing to, drill holes in your muffler and just drive around like a jackass. But when you're drawing attention to a piece of shit car, I don't know what you're doing. Like this is the strangest play of all. Like anyway, bad Texas. Lots of parts. I complain about certain things. Feel like, man, you really seem to hate Texas. No. I actually, every place has its pros and cons. Even the place I love the most in the world, Japan, it definitely has plenty of flaws in Japan. Plenty. One of my biggest irritations in Japan is like you go for like a nice donut in the morning for some dessert, and you think you're getting some kind of cream-filled donut, and it's filled with curry. And it's just a comedy of Japan. Anyway, where was I? Okay, so the idea here is the pitch is, what are comics that had great ideas or kind of really powerful things, and they didn't, it never came to be. They never actually accomplished that pitch, or there was a really great potential there, but it never really happened. I'm thinking in terms of storylines, but there's a lot of ways you could run it. There's a bunch of ones, but the one I was writing about today is I really liked when Jonathan Hickman did House of X Powers of 10. No, that's not the premise. Although I think the techno-organic, the Phalnax and Phalnax, or however you pronounce it, I think that storyline was pretty cool, and definitely that went nowhere. Apparently, in a recent Hickman interview, he talked about doing an Imperial Guard 12-issue series that I think would have been pretty amazing. Kind of space gods from Hickman in the Marvel Universe. I think that would have been money that Marvel could have done. But he's the interesting thing about Hickman is he's very cordial about and then I just moved on, did some other things, and all the rest. But you know that under the surface he was dicked around, and he's just bright enough to know I can get another paycheck if I don't completely air all my laundry at the moment. But he talks about Brian Edward Hill, somebody I've had on the show, and gave a good interview way back in the day, and how that basically Fallen Angels, the fact that it was really botched from Marvel's perspective, wasn't promoted well, came out haphazard, good concept, but just did not do what it was supposed to do. Or sorry, Marvel didn't do what they were supposed to actually give the title a chance, and basically drove him into DC. That Brian Edward Hill was a writer who I think could have done a lot of really great work over time. But anyway, and he's doing Blade now, so I think. But anyway, the concept that Hickman kind of teased out, which pulled from an earlier storyline that I thought really had a lot of longevity and good legs and could do something pretty cool, was the Vault. I think the Children of the Vault and that entire premise of kind of not mutants, superhumans, going into this time displaced thing, being able to age, come out stronger, theory of a different type of evolution, more scientific, mechanical-based evolution, I thought was a really cool concept. There's a lot you could do with it, just a lot. I think as a comic, there was just so much that there's just tons of potential of where it could go, and it didn't. It basically did the one story where the three X-Men went into the vault to kind of go figure it all out, and then the mission goes awry, but we don't really know how, and we just didn't catch up. We basically got nothing from it for a year, and then they finally returned, and it was interesting kind of what they pulled together, but then it kind of went quiet again, and so you basically have this pretty cool, interesting sci-fi concept that, taken to its conclusion, could be one of the biggest threats in the entire Marvel Universe. A whole new villain set, dynamic culture, people, just an amazing amount of things that could be done with that. And I'd say the ball was dropped pretty majorly, just as a character concept, as a villain concept, there's a lot you could do. Marvel is desperate for villains. And villains that are supremely dangerous and calculating and could kind of evolve at an entirely different rate, which includes the people, the weaponry, everything. There's a pretty amazing world you could build there. And Marvel needs it. And these are villains that did not have to be X-Men villains. They could have gone after the Avengers. They could have been at the Fantastic Four. You got lots of different teams and characters that could have gone over there. If you really, really build them up, you get a massive, almost like what, Marvel's milking the symbiote shit to death right now. But you have a threat at that level that could feed its way into tons of stories if built out properly. It wasn't. Now the vault, sure, the vault and all that kind of stuff, an earlier concept that Hickman picked up on, but he was probably the right person to really, do something major and substantial with it. He had that ability, and one thing after another. I mean, that was just. It felt like he was setting them up to be a pretty huge threat and villain in the books, and then kind of it felt like he got distracted, tried to wrap up his run, all the rest of the kind of stuff. It just didn't go anywhere when all was said and done. And we landed with a missed opportunity. Today, I think the vault as a concept probably doesn't go anywhere. I mean, like I don't think you could now resurrect it. It would take a lot more work to actually bring it back to the kind of the cool level of threat. If you remember that first issue of X-Men by Hickman, it introduced this team. It kind of shoved them onto the spotlight, and you had the sense that this was going to be something relatively big. And combined with the threats they already have, this was going to be interesting. The Vault to me is one of Marvel's biggest missed opportunities, both in that run and just in the comics as a whole. But there's lots more, kind of the different things. I would say the Court of Owls as a concept had a lot more legs than it wound up using. It turned in kind of a relatively silly secret society level villain within Batman, and I think there's a lot more that could have been done there. I think what was being set up for Legion of Superheroes turned into Bendis silliness and missed out on that value. And I just there's a lot of these you can do, and I'm curious what yours are. So in the comments below, let me know what are the big threats or storylines or things that kind of were tossed out there, had a lot of potential. People are actually interested. So I'm interested in your opinion, but I'm also interested in just being serious about it. Like, what are the true things that you not both liked, and it was clear there was a lot of other people who liked it too. Let me know what those things are in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. And and what else? Yeah, thanks for listening.